Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're stepping into the heat to tackle a huge claim in the wellness world. Can using a sauna actually help you lose weight? Or is it just another trend that, feels good but doesn't do much?
It's a great question, and we've got a fascinating stack of sources here. On one hand, you have these big commercial claims promising, massive calorie burn.
Right.
And on the other, we have these incredibly detailed, rigorous academic studies looking at exactly what happens to the human body under intense heat.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. We need to separate the science from the marketing hype.
Exactly. Is a sauna some kind of magic fat burner? Or is it more of a smart tool that complements a wider wellness plan? We're going to focus on the difference between water weight and real fat loss, look at the metabolic changes, and really importantly, discuss the safety data.
Especially for people who might be more sedentary.
Yes, that's critical.
Okay, so let's jump right in with the most immediate thing everyone notices. You step out of the sauna, get on the scale, and boom, the number is lower. It feels great, but is it real?
It is real weight loss, but it's almost exclusively water weight. You're basically experiencing passive dehydration. Your body is this incredible thermostat. And when your core temperature shoots up, the whole system just kicks into overdrive to cool you down.
Through sweating.
Through a lot of sweating. The technical term is thermoregulation.
So on average, how much are we talking? How much fluid are we actually losing in a typical session?
Well, the sources we looked at point to about 0.6 to 1.0 kilogram per hour.
Which is what, about 1.5 to 2 pounds?
Yep, about 1.3 to 2.2 pounds of fluid an hour. And while in extreme cases, athletes can lose up to 13 liters, that 1 kilogram loss is pretty standard for a normal 20 or 30-minute session.
That's definitely enough to see on the scale.
Oh, absolutely. But here's the critical context. That weight is regained very quickly, usually within a couple hours, and almost always within 24 hours, as soon as you rehydrate properly.
So it's not a fat loss strategy. It's more for, say, reducing some temporary bloating or puffiness.
Precisely. You cannot view it as a sustainable way to lose fat. It's just a momentary fluctuation.
Okay, so that settles the immediate weight loss question. But that brings us to the calorie burn debate. I mean, your heart is pumping, your body is working hard to cool down. Surely that takes some energy, right? Can we think of it as a form of passive exercise?
We absolutely can. This is where the deeper physiological benefits start to emerge. You're putting your body under what's called hormetic stress. It's a good kind of stress.
A challenge that makes it stronger.
Exactly. Your core temperature rises, and that stimulates your cardiovascular system. Your heart has to work much harder to pump blood to the skin to release that heat. We have data showing heart rates can get up to levels you'd see in moderate intensity exercise.
Like 120, 150 beats per minute.
That's the range, yeah. And that kind of metabolic activation, it definitely requires energy. It burns calories.
But this is where it gets so confusing for people because the claims about how many calories you burn are, well, they're all over the map.
They really are. And it highlights why we need to look at the actual studies. On the low end, you have some sources saying a 30-minute session burns maybe 20 to 60 calories.
So like the same as just sitting up straight?
Or walking very slowly, yeah.
Yeah.
But then you have these other claims, often from manufacturers, saying a traditional sauna burns 300 to 500 calories, or an infrared one can burn up to 600.
That's like going for a moderate run. That's a huge difference.
It's a bafflingly wide range.
So what does the hard data say when they actually measure it in a lab?
This is the aha moment in the research, I think. A specific study on young men found that the energy expenditure actually intensified over time.
What do you mean?
In the first 10-minute session, the participants burned around 73 calories. But by the fourth successive 10-minute session, that number jumped to between 131 and 134 calories.
Wait, so the longer you stay in, or the more cycles of heating and cooling you do, the harder your body works?
That's exactly it. It's an escalating effort.
Yeah.
Think about it. During the short cool-down break, your body doesn't fully return to its normal temperature. So when you go back in, your metabolic engine is already revved up.
So by the fourth round, you're starting from a much higher baseline.
Precisely. Your body has to push the throttle even harder just to keep up. It turns the whole experience into a surprisingly efficient energy drain.
Okay, so duration and intensity clearly matter. Does the type of sauna matter too? Traditional versus infrared. Is one better than the other?
That's a key question because they heat you in totally different ways. A traditional sauna, the Finnish style, heats the air around you. The room gets incredibly hot, like 150 to 195 degrees Fahrenheit.
And the hot air makes you sweat.
Right. Whereas an infrared sauna uses radiant light waves. These waves actually penetrate your skin and warm your body directly from the inside out.
Which is why they can operate at a lower temperature, right?
Exactly. They run cooler, maybe 120 to 140 degrees.
So does that inside-out heating translate to more calories burned?
The sources are a bit mixed on that, but generally the total calorie burn is pretty similar. Some manufacturers claim infrared can boost metabolism more efficiently, but the main practical benefit seems to be comfort.
Meaning you can stay in longer.
Right. And as we just established, longer duration equals more total energy burned over the whole session.
Okay, so the direct calorie burn is modest at best, maybe like a brisk walk if you do a few cycles. The immediate fat loss claims seem, well, overblown. So where's the real value here for long-term weight management?
This is the real insight. The sauna's true power isn't in burning fat directly. It's in the indirect, systemic changes it triggers. We're talking about hormonal balance, stress reduction, and recovery.
The foundations of any good wellness plan.
The absolute foundations.
So walk us through that. Where does the science point first?
Let's start with cortisol regulation. We all know chronic stress leads to high cortisol, and that hormone is directly linked to storing abdominal fat. It makes weight really stubborn.
Right, the stress-fat connection.
Well, regular sauna use has been shown to lower those cortisol levels. It helps regulate what's called the HPA axis.
And for anyone who doesn't know, the HPA axis is...
It's your body's central stress response system. So by calming it down, you are chemically telling your body to stop storing fat due to stress. It's a huge deal.
So you're tackling the mental and chemical side of weight gain? What about just pure metabolic efficiency?
That's next. Sauna use is linked to improved insulin sensitivity and a boost in growth hormone, or GH.
Better insulin sensitivity means your body uses sugar for energy instead of storing it as fat.
You got it. And growth hormone is crucial for muscle repair, and, importantly, it signals the body to start burning stored fat for fuel. So you're essentially fine-tuning your metabolic engine over time.
And then there's recovery. This feels like a big one because if you can't recover from your workouts, you can't be consistent.
It's maybe the most critical piece for consistency. The heat boosts your circulation, delivering more blood and oxygen to your muscles. You're less sore, you bounce back faster, and you're way more likely to stick to your training plan.
And that preserves muscle, which burns more calories at rest anyway.
Exactly. It creates this positive wellness cycle. Better recovery, less stress, better sleep. It all makes sticking to your goals so much more manageable.
Now, this is really important. Let's bring in the clinical safety data. We have studies that look specifically at sedentary, overweight men. What were the risks they found?
This is so important. This study took men with an average BMI around 26.5 and put them through a pretty intense 60-minute sauna protocol, 4 10-minute sessions at 90 degrees Celsius.
So it's almost 200 degrees Fahrenheit.
Very hot. And it created significant cardiovascular stress. Their average heart rate went from 98 up to 133, and their blood pressure also jumped up.
That is a huge leap for someone who is just sitting still.
It is. The study concluded that this kind of strain was most pronounced in the men who were the most obese and had the largest body size. The key warning was that a heart rate over 140 beats per minute can actually have adverse consequences.
Because the heart is working too hard.
Yes, it doesn't have enough time to relax and fill properly between beats, which creates excessive strain.
So a person's size is a direct risk factor here.
It is. The data showed a direct correlation. Body mass index, or BMI, is a good predictor of how much fluid you'll lose. People with a higher BMI lose more water and expend more calories, which sounds good, but it also makes them way more susceptible to both dehydration and that cardiovascular strain.
So based on this data, what are the absolute non-negotiable safety rules for anyone listening?
First, limit your sessions. 15 to 25 minutes is the standard recommendation, especially if you're new. Second, hydration isn't optional. You have to replace that fluid, that 0.6 to 1.0 liter per hour.
And what about the breaks between sessions?
This is crucial. The study participants who only took short 5-minute breaks often didn't see their heart rate return to baseline.
So that's the compounding stress load we talked about earlier.
Exactly. If you don't cool down properly, you're just piling more stress onto an already stressed system. This is where contrast therapy, like a cold shower or a cold plunge, is so important. It helps bring your nervous system back into balance.
So this really brings us full circle. The sauna is great at that immediate temporary weight loss that gets people interested, but its real power, its lasting power, is in all that indirect support for long-term health.
Absolutely. The big picture here is that the sauna is creating hormetic stress. It's a short, controlled challenge that triggers your body to become more resilient and adaptive in the long run. It's about building a stronger system, not just counting calories burned in a single session.
Which leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to consider. We know your heart rate and blood pressure can keep climbing with each session, and we know that cooling breaks are essential for recovery. So you need to ask yourself, are you practicing active recovery, using that hot-cold contrast to reset your system? Or are you just creating a compounding stress load in your routine? The real challenge isn't just about surviving the heat, it's about making sure your body returns to that calm, repaired baseline afterward. That's where the real benefits are found.